I'm making penne arrabbiata. Arrabbiata sauce is really kind of a classic Italian pasta sauce made with tomatoes. Mine has an unbelievable amount of garlic in it, which I'm gonna cook very slowly in olive oil. It's gonna be really sweet and delicious. So nobody wants to peel 24 cloves of garlic. So what I do is I blanch them in a pot of boiling water just for about 15 seconds. And then you'll see the skins just slip right off, just like that. Okay, so that's a cup. So I've got 2/3 of a cup of olive oil that I've got warmed. I'm gonna put the garlic in and just cook it for about 10 minutes, just until the outside is like just barely browned and the inside's really tender. So I've got two 28-ounce cans of San Marzano tomatoes. I think San Marzano are the best quality canned tomatoes. And I've got whole tomatoes. I'm gonna put them in the food processor and just chop them up. I'm just putting them in the food processor so I can control the consistency of the tomatoes. And I'm draining them because I don't want the sauce to be watery. Nobody wants watery sauce. Okay, you can make Bloody Marys out of the rest. Okay, get them in, good. And then I'm just gonna chop them up, just like that. You don't want a puree, you just want them roughly chopped. Okay, I'm gonna take the garlic and put it right into the tomatoes. And then I'm gonna chop that up and then cook it all together. This recipe actually is inspired by Missy Robbins, who has the most incredible pasta restaurant in New York called Missy. It's in Brooklyn. And she makes her arrabbiata sauce with 24 cloves of garlic. And it's so good. And then I'm just gonna chop that up so you get bits of garlic in the sauce. And then this whole thing goes right back into the oil. Try and do it without getting it all over yourself. So this is going back on the stove. Turn on the heat. And I'm gonna take 2 teaspoons of fennel seeds. You can do it in a mortar and pestle, but I think this is actually better to grind them yourself. What I do is just chop them up. And they're gonna bounce all over the place, but it's really worth it. And I think what you do is you get a lot of the oils out of the fennel seeds. Just give it a rough chop like that. They're gonna get tenderized when the sauce cooks. Okay, right into the sauce. Right there. 1 teaspoon of hot red pepper flakes. Okay, next is 1/3 of a cup of red wine. Yum. Tablespoon of salt. Make sure it's really well seasoned. Teaspoon of pepper. I'm always looking for how flavors complement each other, how the tomatoes make the red wine taste better, how the red wine makes the fennel taste better. This is gonna do exactly that. The garlic flavors everything. So I'm just gonna bring it to a boil and then lower the heat and let it simmer for 30 minutes. I'm almost done with the arrabbiata sauce. I'm just gonna add some fresh basil to it. Gives it a nice, fresh, kind of peppery flavor. Okay, about 1/4 of a cup right into the sauce. So I've got a big pot of boiling water, salt, and 1 pound of penne, and I'm cooking it to about 2 minutes less than it requires for al dente. And that's because I'm gonna cook it in the sauce. Okay, pasta should be done, or at least 2 minutes less than done, and I'm just gonna, with a wire strainer, just put it right into the pasta sauce. And that way, all of the pasta sauce gets absorbed into the pasta, and it really flavors it. Very often what we do is we serve pasta, and then we put the sauce on top, and it just kind of sits on the top. But this way, it cooks into it. And a little bit of the starch from the pasta really thickens the sauce. So the 2 elements really work together. And I'm gonna save the pasta water if I need a little extra water. So that's all the pasta. Just give it a big stir. And I'm gonna cook this for about 2 minutes. And you know what? It does need a little water. So I have a ladle. It's always surprising to me. Missy taught me how much water to put into a sauce, which is incredibly surprising. You think you're gonna water it down, and in fact, it does just the opposite. I'm just gonna cook this all together. Oh, man overboard. It's gonna cook together for 2 minutes. The pasta will be perfectly cooked, and the sauce will be just really silken and delicious. can really smell the garlic. But it's like soft, not sharp. In the meantime, while that cooks, I'm gonna julienne a little more basil for garnish. I love pastas because you can make the sauce in advance, just cook the pasta, cook it together, and you've got a fabulous dinner. Big salad, I'm a happy camper. Okay, so clear the decks. You need a big bowl. And the pasta should be done. Oh, this looks gorgeous. And you can really tell that the tomato sauce has gotten into the pasta. Who wouldn't want to have this for dinner? A little fresh basil on top. Some Parmesan cheese, because of course you can never have too much Parmesan. A fork. This is the kind of dinner anybody in the family would love. It's just not your ordinary tomato sauce. This is pasta arrabbiata with 24 cloves of garlic. And it tastes so good. I'm making shrimp and linguini fra diablo. And the shortcut is store-bought marinara sauce, but I'm gonna hot rod it so you'll never know it's store-bought. So I've got a big pot of boiling water. I'm gonna start with the linguini, 1 pound of linguini. And in the meantime, I'm gonna make the sauce. So what I did was I cooked red onions in a little bit of butter and oil until they're really tender. Now I've got 2 tablespoons of garlic, lots of garlic, right in. And next I have some red pepper flakes. Give it a little heat. Okay, I'm just gonna let that garlic cook for about a minute while I season the shrimp. Lots of salt and pepper. Make sure they're really well seasoned. So I'm gonna take the shrimp and I'm just gonna put them into the pan with the onions and just let them sear on one side. And I patted the shrimp dry so they would sear nicely. Okay, that's the shrimp. So just let it sear on one side, and then when it's just slightly pink, I'm gonna turn them over and sear them on the other side. I love the name of this dish, fra diablo. It means brother devil. It means it's really spicy. Okay, the shrimp are nice and pink, and now I'm gonna add some white wine. Because of course, isn't that what Italians do? About 2/3 of a cup of white wine. Great, and I'm just gonna let this simmer away. Then you can drink the rest of it. Okay, next is panko. So I've got butter. And I'm just gonna put some panko crumbs right in, Japanese bread flakes. And I'm just gonna toss these on a low heat, just until they turn brown and crispy. Keep an eye on this, because it happens fast, see? Just happened. Okay, so the panko is perfectly browned. Just gonna add a little parsley, a little salt and pepper. Make sure it's nicely seasoned. Okay, this is ready for later. So the shrimp look like it's perfectly cooked, the wine's reduced, and I'm gonna pour in the sauce. So this is arrabbiata sauce, it's a jar. Don't be tempted to use marinara sauce for this. Arrabbiata sauce has this gutsiness, like this really wonderful spiciness that's important in this dish. Okay, so this is the sauce. Let's see how the pasta's doing. So I'm just gonna take the pasta and just put it right into the sauce. I don't drain it so I can save the pasta water in case I need more. I'm gonna put some parsley in to flavor it, and it looks great. And just toss this whole thing together. Even as it sits, it really absorbs the starch and the pasta sauce and the shrimp. Looks like it's perfect. Okay, now I'll show you how I serve it up. This looks amazing. And it's moist and just absolutely delicious. And then with a little sprinkle of the panko crumbs on top, give it a little crunch, a little flavor. So that's shrimp and linguini fra diavolo with store-bought pasta sauce. I'm not gonna tell if you're not gonna tell. That looks delicious. So what I have in this pot is I've sauteed some onions and garlic and then broken up some sausage that I got at the store. This is turkey sausage. You can get hot, you can get sweet, but I actually like to combine the two, so it's half and half. It's about 1.5 pounds of sausage, and it's all cooked in a little bit of olive oil. Then I'm gonna add tomatoes, a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes in puree. If you use whole tomatoes, you can just put it in the food processor and crush them up yourself. And a 6-ounce can of tomato paste, the whole can. I'm gonna add lots of flavoring. Some fresh basil. Just pick off some leaves and chop it up coarsely. It's all gonna cook together anyway. I love basil, and it tastes so good with tomatoes and turkey sausage. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so right into the tomato and turkey sausage. And then I think some fresh parsley. You can use flat leaf parsley like this, or you can use curly parsley. I think this has a little more flavor, but really depends on the parsley. Right into the pot. I think we need salt and pepper, 1.5 teaspoons of salt. A lot of this depends on how salty and peppery the sausage is, so you'll want to taste it. 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, and then just stir it up. I'm just going to let this simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes over low heat until all the flavors blend together and the tomato and the basil and the turkey sausage all taste like one. Okay, now I'm going to get the cheeses ready. I need 15 ounces of ricotta cheese, which is usually 1 package. And then I'm going to put lots of flavors in it. First thing is goat cheese. I know it's unusual in a lasagna, but I think it really gives a great flavor. So this is a 4-ounce package. Maybe if you have a 4.5-ounce package or 5-ounce package, just be casual about it. It's just fine. Just crumble it right up into the ricotta. Sort of a little more pungent kind of flavor. It's good. 1 cup of grated Parmesan. Just mix that in. And then 1 egg. You know, when you're putting an egg into a mixture, I always put it into another glass bowl because you never know when you get a bad egg. So 1 egg, extra large egg, just mix that in. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of flavor with some chopped parsley. About 2 tablespoons. And of course, salt and pepper. You don't need too much because the Parmesan's pretty salty. 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Just spread it out along the bottom of the dish. Mush it around. Just want to do 1 layer of pasta right on top of the tomatoes. They don't have to be perfect, just cut them to fit. Just take about half the mozzarella and layer it on top. And then the next layer is this cheese, the ricotta, about half the cheese. Remember, it's the ricotta and goat cheese and Parmesan. More sausage. Okay, another layer of noodles. More mozzarella. The rest of the cheese. It's amazing how fast this builds up. And with nothing more strenuous to do than grate some Parmesan over it, I put it in the oven at 400 degrees for 30 minutes. Pasta bolognese has to be one of the most popular Italian dishes, but sadly, it takes forever to make. Well, I've come up with a really easy version that you can actually make for a weeknight meal. I'll show you how to make it. So first, I've got 2 tablespoons of oil that I've heated in a pan, and 1 pound of ground sirloin. I'm just gonna put it right in the pan. Start with 4 cloves of chopped garlic. That's about 4 teaspoons. And then oregano, which is sort of a classic, but I'm adding a lot, a tablespoon. Just like that. I always use dry oregano because I think fresh is too strong, but I grind it between my hands to release the oils. And a little bit of hot pepper. I use about 1/4 teaspoon, but as much as you like. Okay, next is wine. I use a really dry Chianti. And it's going to bring great flavor to this. And then I'm doing something else at the end with a little bit of wine. Right at the end, I throw a little bit of red wine into the bolognese before I serve it. And there's something about that wine that gives an incredible flavor. But right now, just 1 cup. Okay, next, tomatoes. Can't have bolognese without tomatoes. I use 1 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. And if you can get San Marzano tomatoes, it's a kind of tomato, not a brand. They're really the best Italian tomatoes. And to give it a little more intensity, I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. So that's really condensed tomato. Lots of salt and pepper, 1 tablespoon of salt. And then 1.5 teaspoons of pepper. And this is going to cook for about 10 minutes Bring it to a boil, let it simmer away on top of the stove, and let all those flavors cook together. I'm gonna add a few more things to the bolognese sauce. 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. It's an unusual spice, but it really goes well with tomatoes. 1/4 cup of fresh chopped basil, right into the pasta. I'm gonna add a little bit of cream, just 1/4 cup of cream, just to give it a little richness. I never knew anything that cream hurt. And 1/4 cup of red wine. This is where I add it at the end. And it just gives it a little edge. If you're worried about not cooking off all the alcohol, you certainly don't have to add it. You can really smell all the spices and the wine. This is just gonna simmer away for about 8 to 10 minutes. In the meantime, I'm gonna get the fresh Parmesan ready. You want the pasta to drain, but you don't want it to be really dry. How good is that? I'm gonna pour all the sauce on it. Now tell me that doesn't look good. 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese on top, or as much as you like. I'm gonna put a little basil on top. I'd love to know what the ingredients are. Fresh basil's got a nice sort of like spicy quality to it, so that's gonna be fantastic. Give it a big toss, and this is why the orecchiette is so great, because the sauce just gets caught in all those little shells. I think I need a big bowl. A little more Parmesan cheese. Big spoon. And I'd say, buon appetito. Ooh, this looks good. Weeknight bolognese, that is delicious. I bet Jeffrey thinks I'm gonna make a twist on chicken. Well, you know what? I'm gonna rock his world. I'm gonna make pastitio, which is like a Greek lasagna. So the first thing I've done is saute 1½ cups of onions in about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. What I'm gonna add is 1 pound of ground beef and 1 pound of ground lamb. It's the lamb that makes it so Greek. No chicken anywhere. You just put it right into the onions. And this is gonna cook for about 8 to 10 minutes until the meat is really browned and completely cooked through, and the onions will be nice and caramelized. What I was looking for is a dish that's like lasagna, where you make the whole thing in one dish, it goes into the oven, and you just serve it, the entire meal is one dish. And I started doing some research, and I realized the Greeks have something called pastitio, which is really a lasagna, but it's baked with tomatoes and spices like cinnamon and oregano in the bottom, ground meat, and pasta, and then has this big thick layer of bechamel and cheese on the top. It's absolutely delicious. So that's basically what this is. It's like a Greek lasagna. I use 2 kinds of meat, beef and lamb. I just think that gives it great flavor. And what I'm doing here is just browning the meat for about 8 to 10 minutes, along with the onions, just until it's cooked. And then I'm gonna add all kinds of delicious spices. Now I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of a dry red wine. I always add Côte de Rhône, because it's what I like. I always pick something that I can drink and cook with. And the good news is when Jeffrey goes to the store to get me dry red wine, he knows I like Côte de Rhône. Just cook that down a little bit. Okay, that's the ground meat and the red wine. Now I'm gonna add lots of delicious flavors. First thing is garlic, big rough chop. You can add as much as you like. Then I'm gonna add cinnamon, which is a really classic Greek combination of lamb and cinnamon. It just gives it a nice piquant flavor. Usually cinnamon here is used for sweet things, but I love it in savory things. So I'm gonna put a whole tablespoon in. Okay, next is dried oregano. That's classic Greek too. I actually like dried oregano rather than fresh because oregano is so strong, it sort of overpowers it. Pinch of cayenne pepper. As big a pinch as you like, it's hot. And about a teaspoon of fresh thyme leaves. I love the flavor of thyme, so I use fresh thyme leaves. You can just sort of approximate it. So this is ground meat, onions, garlic, and lots of seasonings. It's gonna make a delicious base for the pastitio. Give it a big stir. This is gonna cook for about 5 minutes. In the meantime, I'm gonna get some tomatoes to put in. Okay, so I'm gonna use 1 whole can of crushed tomatoes in puree. It's really thick, and it's gonna make a fabulous sauce. This is a good one to use for crushed tomatoes, and the thick puree actually makes a much thicker sauce. So you always want to find tomatoes in puree. Pour that whole thing in. Get all of it. 2 teaspoons of salt. One teaspoon of pepper. That's just going to simmer away for about 40 to 45 minutes until it's thick and spicy and delicious. Then I'm going to add some pasta. I wonder what kind of trouble Jeffrey's getting into.
Hey, Bill.
Hi, Jeffrey. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
Want your usual wine?
This time I'm going to surprise Ina.
Do you know what you're eating?
Fortunately, I don't. That's the challenge.
Well, I know Ina likes Côte de Roses. I think I have a great idea for you. Côte de Roses are predominantly the Grenache grape. So from France, we have a Gigondas, which is from the Côte de Rome, but it's a single village town, which is a far higher quality wine.
Well, that sounds really interesting.
And since Ina likes Côte de Roses, this is a Côte de Rome style blend by the French winemaker Chateau de Beaucastel, but it's from California.
Hey, I like this one too.
Or another exciting option, Jeffrey, is from Spain. The predominant grape in Côte de Roses is Grenache, and this is 100% Old Vines Grenache from Spain.
This really looks great. I think I'll take this one.
Well, Jeffrey, I hope Ina likes it.
I think she's going to love it. Thank you, Bill.
You're very welcome.
See ya.
Oh, this ground meat looks just incredible. It's thick and it's rich and it just looks delicious. Okay, next I need some pasta. So get a big pot of boiling water, lots of salt so the pasta has good flavor. And what I'm using is something that's called, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing this wrong, conchiglietti, which is small shells. You can use any kind of small shells, but these are really good ones. 3/4 of a pound. So it's most of the box. Give it a big stir. And that's going to cook for about 8 minutes. But check the box that you're using and make sure you've got the right amount of time. You want to just undercook it because I'm going to put it into the sauce and then I'm going to bake it. And so it's going to cook a little longer. But it's going to really absorb all the flavors of the meat and the spices. Small shells are wonderful because they sort of distribute themselves through the sauce. It's going to be so good. And now I'm going to make the cheese sauce. So the first thing I need to do is heat up some milk and cream. I've got 1.5 cups of milk and 1 cup of cream. What I'm doing is I'm making a bechamel, which is a white sauce. And while that heats up, I'm going to make the roux. I've got 4 tablespoons of butter that I've melted in a pan. It's about 1/2 stick. I'm going to add 1/4 cup of flour. It's just all-purpose flour. And just dump it all in at once. The point of this is actually to just cook the flour a little bit so you don't have that raw flour taste in it. Just cook it for about a minute. So the butter and flour are perfectly cooked. They're not browned. Just for about a minute, I'm going to switch to a whisk. Just to make sure I get a nice, smooth cream sauce. I'm going to pour the milk and cream in, whisking it. No lumps here. And then later, I'm going to add lots of cheese, Parmesan and yogurt. So pastitio is like a Greek lasagna, and it's got meat and shells and delicious tomato sauce on the bottom and a nice cheese sauce, bechamel on the top, and it's all baked together, so it's an entire meal in one dish. Okay, so this is nice and thick. And now I'm going to add some flavors. 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of pepper. Next, Parmesan cheese. I'm going to put about 3/4 of a cup of grated Parmesan into the sauce and then save 3/4 of a cup for the topping so it gets nice and brown and crusty. Okay, give it a big stir. And then I do one other thing. I put 1/2 cup of the meat sauce with the tomatoes and the spices right into the cheese topping. I just think it flavors it and it makes it pink, and I think it looks fantastic. This is going to cool for about 10 minutes. I think I'll email Jeffrey and see what he's up to. I'm terrified he's wreaking havoc on the Hamptons.
Email from Ina. Jeffrey, meet me down the garden path at the barn at 7. I think she's trying to surprise me. Wow, this really raises the threshold on what I've got to do to surprise her. Hi, Stefan.
Hey, Jeffrey, your usual baguette?
No, I think I'd like to try something different.
I have, let's see. I have a white bread,
Yeah?
a Swedish rye bread, or I have this fennel raisin bread.
Oh, that sounds great. I don't think she's ever had that.
Okay.
I'll take that.
All right. Here you go, Jeffrey.
That's great. Thanks, Stefan.
Sure, of course.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is going to be great. Ina's going to be really surprised. I really nailed it.
Okay, cheese sauce is cooled. Now I'm going to put the pasta right into the tomato sauce. So these are the shells. And just mix it all together. Oh, this looks fantastic. Big baking dish. Any size, just make sure it's big enough. Okay, and just pour it all right in. This is the bottom layer, and then the top layer is all that beautiful bechamel with cheese and yogurt. It smells delicious. Really can smell the cinnamon. Okay, just smooth the top. And now the sauce, if it was just a sauce, would sort of seep through it. So I'm going to add 2 things that are going to make sure it's a layer on top. The first one is eggs. So I'm sort of making the bechamel sauce into a custard. 2 eggs. And this is why you want to cool the sauce a little bit so it doesn't cook the eggs, so it just thickens it. Okay, so just stir the eggs right into the hot bechamel. And since it's pastitio, I say that 3 times, I'm going to add Greek yogurt, 2/3 of a cup. That actually makes it a little thicker, and it adds that nice tang that yogurt has. So I'm just going to eyeball 2/3 of a cup. And just stir it all in. And now when it bakes, it's going to bake right on top of the layer of the meat and tomatoes and shells. This looks fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to pour this on top. Just smooth it right over the top of it. And just to make sure there's enough cheese and to brown the top, I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of Parmesan cheese right to the top. Just sprinkle it evenly over the top of it. I mean, does this look delicious? I don't think Jeffrey will be disappointed. Okay, into the oven, 350 degrees for an hour, and it's going to be hot and bubbly, and he's going to be a very happy guy.